Good afternoon, everybody. Today is Wednesday, July 16th, and today we're going to be talking about listings, getting listings and where things are at. Willie will be joining us here shortly. He's just getting his computer set. Here he comes right now. There he is, Willie.
Hey, everyone.
In the meantime here, I'm going to pull up our syllabus, talk about where we're at. And, well, Willie, I'll share my screen. I don't know if yeah, you probably have the controls. I don't know if you have the syllabus, you want to pull it up on your end?
Brian, I will give you the controls right now and we'll get started. Yeah, so every once in a while my computer likes to tell me that my login doesn't work and then my email doesn't work. So we ended up getting it together here, but let me just give this, Brian. There you go.
Very good. And I will put it on that. So hopefully you guys could see this here, masterclass. I'll zoom in up in a little bit. There we go. So as usual, working our way through, marketing, advertising. We went through building your investment portfolio. We talked a little bit about technology and tools. And Willie, this is module 4 that we're entering in right now, which is still very relevant in, I would argue, either a buyer's market or a seller's market. You want to get the listings. Listings is where it's at. We've been doing a lot of training through the years on listings, and we're going to start talking today why they're important.
We are. This is one of my favorite topics. I'm going through this listing presentation, and I think that I was just talking to an agent out of Dallas earlier today. We were talking about the importance of it, about not following through and making sure that, when you start the presentation to the end, that if you don't follow these things, and Brian, you and I always talk about it, it's like a combination lock, right? Like if you don't have the right combo on it, it could cause problems where you're not going to get the listing. And a lot of it has to do with we let the consumer control the interview. And sometimes you'll have a high D personality or someone just wants to get to the point and what do you think? What do you think it's worth? And as real estate agents, a lot of times we just like, well, let me get that information and let me tell you what your home is worth. And at the end of the day, can we really tell people what their home is worth? We really can't, right? It's up to the market. But a lot of us get locked into that. And I'm going to go over that on our 14-step process as to what you can do to prevent that so that you're not dictating to them, because you will lose business. If you tell them, here's what I think your home is worth, here's what I think you should list it at, you will lose business, guaranteed. This market is crazy. We just had a property that went under contract the other day for $72,000 more than what the list price was. And we thought we were on the higher end. Right, Brian? We were talking about that, right? So how are we to determine that? And then I had an agent on the other side who came in $50,000 below our list price and said, well, I'm an appraiser also, and I think that this is what it's worth based on the comps. Right. So, I mean, you were almost $100,000 difference between the two here, right? But if you follow this plan and you follow this process, when you get to the point of actually getting down to the list price, we'll show you how you can get them in a range that makes sense to them, makes sense to you, that you can start with, and then let the market dictate as to what your price should be. So, so this is why I really love this this topic. And,
yeah, well, and I know we're going to get into why it's important over the next few calls here and a lot of materials, but talking about listings too, it's funny is I had conversations with some agents recently, and I know you've had them, you shared them with me in the past with other agents, but some agents are afraid of listings. And, it is a challenge, just like you said, it could be all over the place. But if you want to be successful in this business, and we'll talk about it in the sheets, I don't want to get too far ahead, you can't shy away from listings. And not only can you not shy away from listings, but to really be successful in this business, I always argue that, you got to have confidence, and the way that you do it is by having a process that you can repeat, practice over and over and over again, like a true professional. We always say that pros practice, right? And the things that we're going to demonstrate here in the next few calls, our process that we've been using, our presentations that we've been using, it's all great. But if you're just here on this call, which a lot of agents make that mistake, is they go on one training call for listings and they're like, oh, I don't need to take that training. I already did that 6 months ago, or last year I sat in on a listing training. Then what happens is you start to practice on your appointments, and that's where you're just going to lose every time to someone who's seasoned and has it dialed in, someone that continues to grow, goes to trainings like this, someone that continues to have a proven process like Willie's used through the years and trained through the years. The process is kind of an outline, Willie, that you've been following for years, like you said, it's a combination like that works. I mean, we make certain tweaks based on the market, but for the most part, the things that we're going to share with you are stuff that you may have heard before, but they're tried and true, right? They're proven. Would you agree with that? We'll talk about when agents tell you about, I don't want to work with sellers. Maybe elaborate on that a little bit, your experience.
Well, they want to work with sellers because, especially in a market, if you think about it here in the Capital District, and we have people on this call over the country, like Florida is a totally different market. Right. When things are going well and things are selling quick, agents want listings, right? We want listings because it's easy. We put it on the market on Wednesday. You can get multiple offers on Monday, and things are going great. But what happens to the agents like that are down in Florida where 3 months, 4 months, 6 months now on market that you have to have the seller that you have to be constantly reporting to and telling them, geez, no activity this week, or geez, we had one showing, but they feel it's too high. And this is where agents say, I don't want to do listings because I don't want to disappoint. I feel like I'm not doing my job, or they feel I'm not doing my job. So now I feel bad about getting a listing because it's sitting there, and I feel, I don't want to get that pressure. And that's why I feel agents, and what I've seen, Brian, to answer your question, that this is why agents don't want listings, because they don't have a proven process. They don't have, the process of setting those expectations up front, which is what we do on these presentations. But I actually have a document, Brian, that I want to share here, and I'm going to try to steal back the controls from you here in a minute. Yep. Let me see. Let me go and grab the controls here. Change presenter back to me. There we go. All right. So let me just share this document here. And I know I have something else open in the background, but what do you see on your screen right now? Yeah. Cost is only about issue.
Yes. Cost is only absence issue. Cost only an issue in the absence of value. Got it.
Right. So this document right here should hopefully answer some questions as to why we want listings. And cost, meaning commissions, what we actually charge our clients, is only an issue in the absence of value, right? So if you're going to go in there, and I see a lot of agents do this, where like, I'll do it for X or I'll do it for Y, and they're coming in low, is because they don't have a proven presentation. They feel they're just a commodity like every other agent, and that customer is going to pick someone based on who's got the lowest commission. And that doesn't need to be the case if you have a proper listing presentation and you come in there with the proper credentials. But cost, meaning commission, is only an issue in the absence of value. Value is what's going to come from your actual listing presentation and showing them all the things that you're going to do to get them top dollar based on the marketing and your processes to do that. But let's just take a quick look here. If you look at why listings are important, seller listings create exposure, bringing in more buyer leads and listing leads, right? So meaning that if you properly list a property, and you sell that property, you should be able to attract other sellers by doing mega open houses and inviting local sellers in a neighborhood to the home to actually view that property and to meet them, because they're going to be interviewing you. Make no mistake about it. When you do open houses, you see sellers come in or neighbors come in, they're interviewing a lot of times. A lot of times they're looking to get their home on the market over the next couple of months, or maybe in the next 6 months or 12 months. And they want to know how they felt going in that door. They want to know what type of questions you ask them. They want to know what type of follow-up is there and what you're doing for marketing. So they're interviewing you. So you should be able to pick up seller leads by properly marketing these listings. But more importantly, you should be picking up buyer leads as well by using social media and some of the other tactics that we show in our buyer training on every listing that you get. So use listing as a great way to market. That's number 2. Listings are used as a marketing vehicle. Right? You're not saying, hey, I got a buyer, just listed a buyer, right? You're not doing any of that stuff, but you're doing that when you take a listing. So that's getting you promotional marketing material out there where you're able to show yourself, market yourself, and get yourself out there in front of your clients on social media. And also, if you're doing weekly emails, you should be sending it to your database to let them know that you're listing properties and you're selling properties as well. Each listing should produce at least one qualified buyer if you're doing the right type of marketing. I've had some agents say I picked up 5 buyers at this listing that I've had because, I had 2 or 3 open houses. We see that a lot in Florida now. One listing could produce many buyers to them over time because they keep doing listings or open houses on their listings and they're attracting other buyers to it. But here in let's say in upstate New York, It may not be that because it's going under contract right away, but you should be doing open houses. You should be doing everything you can on an initial listing that you take, especially if you put it on the market on a Wednesday. You start marketing to your general public, right? You put it out to all your agents that you put it out to your buyers in waiting. You should have an open house also that whole weekend so that the marketing is able to work over the next 4 or 5 days to give you multiple offer to actually give you a higher price for that seller. And this is what I see a lot of agents make the mistake of, Brian, where they'll list something on a Wednesday. The first offer that comes in Wednesday afternoon or Thursday, they end up taking, and in that offer it says cancel all your showings and open houses. That has no service at all. That's no service to the seller, and it has no added advantage to the seller by doing so. So we say in the initial stages, go ahead and blast it out for 5 days before you even consider taking an offer. Now, we just had that situation, Brian, that we cancel an open house, but it was only on the market for 2 weeks, but already had time to go through the market, and the sellers felt like, okay, we want to take this and we want to cancel the open house on Sunday because they got a really, really good offer, and these people wanted to get it locked down, and they wanted to be done with showings, that birthdays going on and everything else. But they were able to see the market over 10 days, not 2 days, not 1 day. And that makes a difference. And then the last thing, Brian, and I'll get your feedback on is it gives us the ability to leverage our time more effectively, right? Just talking to an agent, newer agent that's only been in the business about 9 months earlier today. Great agent. I mean, she's going to be awesome. Awesome agent. She's in a full-time sales career right now. But she gets it, right? And what she said is like, wow, working with buyers is a lot. Like, I don't know if I can put that type of time, still have my day job, and then obviously try to bridge the gap to get into real estate and work with buyers. It's just taking a lot of time. I want more listings. I want more sales. So She got it right away, right? Because like I said, she's going to be a great agent, but she understands that when you have a listing, you can leverage your time so much better than working with a buyer, right? You can have 10 listings and 10 buyers, and the time that you put into those 10 active buyers are going to be way more and take more of your time, especially in a competitive market that we're having, losing out on other listings because you're in multiple offers. But if you're on the listing side, you're going to get paid, right? And you don't have to be out there showing your seller all kinds of homes. You're listing their house, you're going to their house, and everything else is being done remotely, so you can leverage your time much better and more effectively when using listings. So a healthy combo of the two is important. If you're 90% of your business is working with buyers, you can't leverage your time properly. You're going to be way overwhelmed, and you're going to hit a cap or a ceiling to what your potential is by not going after listings. So I know there was a lot to say in those 4 bullet points, Brian, but you know how passionate I am about this stuff, and I wanted to make sure that I got through that because listings are very important.
Yeah, they're very important. One of the things you touched on too, and it just reminded me of the conversation that I was talking with this agent that says, I don't like listings, I don't want listings. And the reason why is, they had 2 or 3 deals that fell apart for inspections or got beat up, didn't make it through. Or I remember back when it was a buyer's market, it wasn't unheard of for a house to be on the market for 6 months and expire. Right? It was overpriced or just didn't get a buyer and expired. But one of the things that I would always ask the agent, how many qualified buyers did that listing get you? Oh, I picked up 3 buyers. Well, you got to look at the ROI, right? The profit in it as well. It's not just selling that listing, but can you maximize that listing and use it to leverage more business, more, because that other buyer could have a home to sell. That could lead to more transactions. Sure. So if you're cutting listings out, you're also cutting out a chunk of potential business down the road that it could lead to. Whether you sell the house or not, you could literally make money on a listing without even selling the house. I mean, we want to sell the house and do the right job for the client. But in the meantime, too, to your point, it's a marketing vehicle that you could actually generate additional clients and business from, whether you sell that house or not. So,
great
point.
So true. I heard a long time ago, I mean, I've been in the business almost 30 years now, but a long time ago, back in my late 90s, back in my old Remax days, I remember an agent saying, you have to list to last.
Yes. You
have to list to last. And it's so true. To be an agent and you're doing this full time as your career, you have to take listings. You have to know what you're doing on listings. And how do you obtain listing? That's the next bullet point that's on here that I want to share with you. And then we'll actually go through the 14-step process quickly. the first one, and let's face it, your best leads are always going to be personal referrals, right? Your database. If you don't have a database, you don't have a business. But your center of influence, your networking, the database that you have, that you nurture every day and that you're feeding every day, and you're sending weekly emails out to and educating that database, that's where your best leads are always going to come from, right? So that's number one. Number two, your current listings that you have, right? Doing open houses, doing, your sold signs, doing even a just sold postcard in the neighborhood that you sold this one and got, 50,000 over ask or whatever it may be. That's going to attract. So every listing you have you should be marketing to that neighborhood to let them know that, come on in, take a look at it at the open house. Here's what I just sold. Here's what happened with the situation. Educate them. So important. Number three, farming a neighborhood, targeting a certain area through your newsletters, through your just listed, through your just sold, sats. A lot of agents we have at our company and a lot of our coaching clients have areas that they farm and they do very well with by being consistent. Some of our top agents, very consistent of doing emails, not emails, but postcard mailings out to those farm areas, and they do very well because you get what you ask for. If you want $1 million listings, then start marketing $1 million listings. If you want to be an agent in a certain neighborhood, start marketing that neighborhood. But you have to be consistent. Don't just do it once and you're done. You have to do it over time. So actually with that, I'm going to give a website. You guys should all write this down. So write it down. Go on there right now. It's called, the website is RE, like real estate, right? RE successworkshop.com. resuccessworkshop.com. We have a webinar tomorrow at 10 a.m. where I'm going to go over 6 innovative strategies to get more listings in 2025. I'm going to give you 6 different ways to actually go after and get more listings, how to hone in certain neighborhoods, how to do home seller workshops, how to do this on social media, how to go deeper with your database, how to work with vendors, and also how to buy these leads online. So we're going to be doing that tomorrow. Again, it's resuccessworkshop.com at 10 o'clock tomorrow, where we'll actually show you the newsletters. We'll show you the templates that are working for a lot of our agents and our coaching clients. Reverse prospecting, right? Classified ads, postcards, websites, all that stuff still works. For sale by owners, low hanging fruit. I was talking to an agent the other day. That's where a lot of his listings come from. Just befriending the for sale by owners, talking to them about what their buy plans are, giving them opportunity. And then when time comes up, when his for sale by owner overpriced and is not selling or they're not getting the marketing, this person is in front of the line usually because of educating them and giving them good information about what it would take to get their home sold. Expire listings, that's another great one. We don't have a ton of them in the Capital District, but I can tell you in Florida, they do. And just one little idea, sending a personal note, hey, please give me a call in regards to your home, folding their MLS expired listing and sending it to them, and give me a call with your business card, will prompt phone calls. It's proven, it's worked for years. We have a couple agents doing it now, and they just had some success with it on getting people to call them about listing their property. And then one that I'm not really that comfortable with, cold calling, door knocking around other listings. It works. People do it. It's very effective for a lot of agents that I know that do circle prospecting, as they call it. I just never, doing all the other things above, I was more successful on and enjoyed having people come to me or working with people that I knew who knew me, liked me, and trust me, versus going cold calling and knocking on doors. And then buyers, Brian, as you said, buyers will have listings also. So when you get these online leads that are coming from Realtor.com or Zillow, a lot of them have homes that they have to sell. So you can pick up listings like that as well. So,
Yeah,
all right,
really,
anything you want to add to that, Brian?
yeah, I remember the last bullet point there. Buyers have listings to sell, and we talked about this, doing an open house for a listing. Potential sellers come in there to interview agents too. And I remember doing an open house. Actually, it was George and Ruth Rodriguez's house. You remember, family members of ours. I did an open house on their listing, and I met a person that came in that we had a great dialogue with, and she says, gee, I'm looking to sell my house, sell my mother's house, and buy a house with an in-law. So that turned into 4 transactions because of that one listing. But if I was just working with buyers and I wasn't working with listings, here's my point there. You just remind me of it. Like, look at the business that I would limit myself to. Now, it wasn't just those 4 transactions. That person also went on to give me additional referrals that, again, this is how you build your database, by these relationships. So you definitely need to have listings in order to leverage your business and watch it grow from there, because it's not just one transaction that you're losing. You're potentially losing multiple ones if you're just working with buyers only.
So true. All right, well, let's go ahead and get into your worksheet. If you're obviously on this call, you were sent out a worksheet, so you can go ahead and pull that worksheet out now and fill in the blanks. And again, we'll go through some of these things quickly.
Yeah.
But I'll start off with giving you the first set of modules on. Actually, Brian, I'll have you do this, and then I'll start with the 14-step process. So why don't you go ahead and start with these?
Okay, so why are listings in the 14-step process right there? So do you have it up on the screen? Oh, you do have it up on the screen there. Okay, there we go. I'm looking at a different screen. It was weird. I had it up.
We just went over these, but it's on their worksheet.
Yep. So let me zoom in on a little bit, Willie, so I could see it. So before, I just lost your screen for a second. I apologize.
Yeah, I'll do it. I'll jump into it.
Go ahead. No, I got it. Before we jump, go ahead. Got it?
Yeah, I'll go into it. So the 14-step process, you guys see on the screen, very important to get listings, right? So I think I sold you guys on that, or I don't need to sell you on it. You guys already know. Getting listings is so important. Gives you exposure. It's a great marketing vehicle, right? You should get 1 qualified buyer minimum from each one. Gets you leverage your time, right? We went over these things. So that's why we recommend the 14-step process. And the 14-step process is something that we really want you guys to really focus in for today and go over these steps. And hopefully just one of these ideas going through this process will trigger something in your mind to say, geez, maybe that's why I lost that appointment. I didn't do this or I didn't do that. Or on your next appointment, you'll think about these things, right? So cost is only an issue in the absence of value, right? We talked about that. That's why listing presentation is so important. But I'll go through the first few bullet points on here. First one is being on time.
Yeah.
And you may say, well, that's obvious, Willie. That's like, why even waste the calories on talking about being on time? And the reason why I bring that up is because I've been on well over 1,000, if not more, listing appointments, and I've won deals because I showed up on time.
Right.
And the other agent showed up 15, 20 minutes later and didn't even flinch that they were late. And people found it to be very rude and very turned off by it. And one of the reasons why we gave you this listing, Willie, is because you actually showed up on time. This other person came in late. So that triggered in my mind, I will never be late for a listing. So getting there sometimes 15, 20 minutes before, parking somewhere in the neighborhood, maybe taking a look at some other comps that you want to talk to them about, that you wanted to share with them on your presentation. Now I'm sitting down the end of their street, or I'm sitting outside their home, 5 or 10 minutes before I walk in their door, right? If they come in or if they wave you in, then that's fine. But I want to be there on time and be early. It just shows respect. And there's a big correlation between integrity and punctuality. There is a correlation between the two. And if you think I'm lying about it, do some research on it. So being on time, so important. Number 2, when you get there, obviously knocking on the door, ringing the doorbell, walk in the home, introduce yourself, and ask the seller if they would like you to remove your shoes. Again, that's a no-brainer, Willie. No, it's not. And I go on with agents sometimes on appointments and shadow them, or they want me to go with them, and I'll go. And I'll just see them come in with their wet shoes and they're walking right to the kitchen. And I'm like, you got to take your shoes off, right? Again, that came from a couple different examples, but that came from being on listing appointments where people were upset. Some different religious organizations or religious type of people, I guess. I don't know the right wording. I want to be politically correct on this, but some people have prayer rooms. Some people are very superstitious about people walking in with dirty feet, right? Or in dirty shoes. Mm-hmm. So make sure you're prepared for that. Make sure you don't have holes in your socks. Make sure, you're not going there and showing up with, a bad presentation on your feet when you walk in that door. But my point is that you want to make sure that you ask, would you like me to take my shoes off? And people really respect that. I know I give the example of my wife, Sherry, when we interviewed 3 contractors to work on our back and build us a sunroom. The first contractor comes in, he's got his Timberland boots on, he's got mud on him, and walks right into our, practically brand new home. She was like, she couldn't believe it. She's like, oh my God, can you take your shoes off? Brian, you can tell, right? You know what I'm talking about. The third contractor that came, his name is Dave Bernacki, very successful contractor in our market. He came in and he had, what's the shoes with all the holes in it, Brian?
Booties?
I want to say squawks, not squash.
Well,
what are they?
I know what you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about?
Crocs.
Crocs. He has his own set of Crocs in his hands. He takes his shoes off, puts the Crocs on, and walks in. He goes, they're like slippers. She loved them, right? And then we ended up doing a deal with him. He was even more money, right? But the fact that he came in and had that respect and came in like that showed that this is a person that we want to work with, right? If he's like this, just coming in the door, I'm sure he's going to do a great job for us, right? So think about that from a listing perspective. Don't just go walking in people's homes with your shoes on. I mean, granted, there's sometimes you walk in and you're like, there's, dog hair all over the place is total mess, and you don't want to walk in there with your bare feet or shoes on. Then come prepared. Come with socks, come with shoes, do whatever you have to do. But, you definitely want to do that. And, make sure also, if you're going to shake someone's hand, give them a nice handshake, look them in the eye, that type of thing. I've had people say that too. I didn't like that person when I shook his hand. They didn't even look me in the eye, or, she was kind of squinting the other way, that type of thing. Like be confident, when you're showing up. But the shoe thing's a big thing. I'll do 2 more, Brian.
Yeah.
Turn on your laptop, tablet, whatever you want to use, an iPad Pro, whatever you're going to do, make a little small talk. But each and every one of you should have a listing presentation, even if it's on a 3-ring binder that you have and do a paper format. You need to have a presentation to show your value. Cost is only an issue in absence of value. If you're not going to come in there with a nice presentation and show them all the things you're going to do for marketing and think you're just going to talk in your ear about it, you're wasting your time, and you're just going to be a commodity, and you're just going to be like everyone else, right? So having a presentation that you actually have, but don't just throw it on their, antique dining room table. Ask them, where would it be a good spot for me to put my stuff down here before going through. And number 4 is asking the seller to do a quick tour of their home, bringing a notepad or something to write down. I lost a listing because of this. And I thought I had it in the bag. It was a referral. I went, I did it. We hit it off really well, I thought. She was interviewing one other person, but, it was someone that, she didn't really know of. I didn't even know the agent. They didn't even have a lot of experience. I called the seller called me a couple days later, and she goes, Willie, we're going to go with someone else. We really loved everything you have to say, but we're going to go with someone else. And I said, just for me to understand or to do a better job in the future, was there anything I could have done differently to earn your business, And she said, Willie, honestly, she said, you did a great job. Your presentation was great. Everything was good. We just felt that agent was more interested in selling our property and was more excited about it. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do? Cartwheels when I walk in the door? I'm going through my mind, like, how could I have been more excited or whatever? I said, can you explain a little bit more on that? And she said, well, this agent actually took notes down when I gave him the tour. You just kind of walked through with your hands in your pocket, and we did all these different things to this home over the last 20 years. And we updated the kitchen, we updated the bathrooms, we did the roof, she told me everything, all right? It took like a half-hour walkthrough of all the updates that they did. And she was right. I didn't take the time to write anything down. I just kind of went through it. I was kind of maybe even caught off off guard a little bit because of all the updates that she did. But because I didn't have a notepad is why I didn't get it. So note to you guys, if you're going to go out there and you're going to do that quick tour of the property, make sure you're bringing a notepad with you. And I've had some agents or sellers tell me that we didn't go with that other agent because they didn't even do a tour of our home. They just sat down at the table and told us what our house was worth. They didn't even do a tour. They just said, what do you want for your home? Here's some comps, and you want to get your home sold. So make sure you do that tour. And that's, again, number 4, asking for a quick tour and making sure that you bring something to write it down with. All right, Brian, you want to do this next couple?
Yeah, that last point's so true. And if you need an analogy, we always use the restaurant analogy. especially when you're with a larger group of people and you have a server that comes over with no notepad, they're not taking notes down, they're taking orders. You don't have faith in that person's going to get it right. So just imagine a homeowner, this is their biggest asset, as we always say. And if they don't feel like you're giving attention to detail or paying attention, you could lose them with something simple as that. And that's why it's an important point there that we put in the process. Number 5, just another important point, make a mental note of negative selling points. So while you have that notepad and you're on that tour, don't just blurt out negative things that you see. I mean, this is their domain. This is where they live, and they're very sensitive, and they can be very defensive. They just met you. You don't have that rapport yet. You haven't earned that know, like, and trust factor yet, where you can be candid and open with them and say, what's that odor? Or who the hell picked this paint color, right? You know, right away, the guard's going to go up, and it's going to be a big challenge if you can overcome that at all to get them to, you know, warm up to you at all. So you want to make mental notes of selling points, write them down, scribble them down. There's a time and place later on to bring them up in a less, how do I say this, really, not distractive way, but a way that's not going to harm their feelings towards you. So you don't want them to get defensive right off the rip. You just met them a few minutes ago. You're on a tour. Very important on that tour to get a good understanding and start to build on the know, like, and trust factor. And the way to do it, number 6, compliment everything in the house, right? The condition of the home. Wow, this is a great home. Even if it's not your cup of tea, look for the positives versus the negative. You know, always walk into that tour with the cup half full versus half empty. Look at the opportunities, because the truth is, you know, let them know that you have a great home and it will sell. There's a buyer out there for everything. Everything sells, right? It might not be something that you want to purchase, but everything will sell eventually. So give them compliments. This is a great space. You know, if it's messy or dirty, you got an odor, find something else to pick out that's great about that, because you want to make them feel warm and fuzzy and start to like you and trust you. And then they'll open up a little bit more to you. And as the appointment goes on, as we go through these steps, you know, you're going to build that connection better. That'll help you convert the business. But if you're pointing out negative things right away and you're not being complimentary to them, they're not going to feel good about having you in their house, and they're definitely not going to feel good about doing business with you. So those are those 2, Willie.
All right, next one, sit down. You know, when you're done with that tour, and like Brian said, you make those little mental notes and little scribbles on the bottom. There's going to be a time and place for it, but sit down with them, you know, go to your presentation and have a conversation with them, you know. And what I like to really ask, and if I don't already have that information ahead of time, you know, I'll ask them, you know, you had me come over today. I know you're interviewing with a couple agents. What's important to you? I know you know, you said you're meeting with 3 different agents. What's most important to you about working with a broker and what they need to do for you? And then I just shut up and I want to listen to what they have to say. And what do they say? Normally they'll say, well, we want to know, you know, what are some of the things that we have to do to get top dollar for a home? Okay. And I write it down, right? Remember, mental, write it down. Okay, what else? Well, we also like to know, you know, what can we expect to get for our home? What do you think it's worth? All right, let me write that down. Good. What else? I don't know. What do you charge, right? Commission that you charge. I hear a lot of agents, you know, charge the same. Okay, let me write that down, right? Anything else? No, that's really the top 3 things that we're looking for. And that's why I want to ask them those questions. I want to find out, you know, what are their moving plans? I want to find out, you know, what's the plan? If you sell here, where are you going? Right now, I'm looking for opportunities for relocation. I'm looking for opportunity for timing and motivation. You know, if they're telling me, well, we're not looking to, we really want to sell the home when Mary's done with high school. Okay, well, what grade's Mary in now? Well, she's in 10th grade. Okay, well then, why am I even here, right? You don't say that, but I'm just saying that. You know, now you're saying to yourself, okay, timing is 2 years down the road. Their motivation is going to be very low. So this is more of a, here's some things you need to do, build that rapport, nurture them now over the next 2 years and get that listing. And we've done it. We've done listings and buyer sales that we've nurtured for 4 years, 5 years. We just had one the other yesterday. We were just talking about it with Robin and Trish. Her name was Sally. 7 years from the time she came to our website to the time we listed and sold her house was 7 years before she listed. And again, timing and motivation wasn't there for her, but we still went to see her, told her what needed to be done to the house, and then we kept in touch with her. All right, so once you do that, and once you kind of get a good feel for where you're at, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to the next step and do this presentation. I'm not going to do the presentation if they're selling in 2 years. Got it? So if I know that, okay, hey, this is going down the path where they're looking to sell here in the next couple of months, then that's where we're going to go ahead and segment into the listing presentation. And usually I open it up and I'll let them know that, I'm going to go ahead and get into this this information here. But there are three things that are going to get your home sold, and that's the condition of your property, right? You got a great home, like Brian said, walk through your home. You got a beautiful home here, and it definitely will sell. Why do we say that? We say that because a lot of times they can have the most beautiful home and they still think that no one's going to be interested in buying their home. So we eliminate that from them. You can actually see them breathe better and actually see that relief that they have that's on their shoulders because they really don't think someone wants their home. So condition being number one. Number two is marketing. We got to get as many eyes on your home as possible because the more people that the agent that can bring more people to look at your home is the agent that's going to give you the top dollar for your home. All right. So I want to show you our exclusive marketing program that we have here at Miranda Real Estate Group. And then the third piece is pricing. And really with pricing, no matter what happens, no matter what marketing you do, no matter what condition your home is, if your home is worth say $600,000 and you want to sell it for $750,000, it's not going to work, right? I don't care what it is. I don't care what marketing you have behind it. It's just not going to sell. But if we can get it within the right range and we can sell, we can get it there, then we can maximize your sales price for you, right? So once I get that agreement and I let them know, here's what I'm going to do. We looked at your home, condition is great. I'm going to go over the marketing stuff with you right now, and then we'll get into pricing. Is that okay? And I was like, okay, great. You control the interview, right? You're not going to stop and say at that point, well, Willie, what do you think the house is worth? And then go into pricing without doing your marketing. You will lose every time. That's a kiss of death. Do not do that. And if they say to you, can you just tell me what my home is worth? I always kind of go back. Yeah, sure. I'm going to do the marketing real quick and then we'll go into that. Because you may have a high D personality type that doesn't want to sit there for the next 20 minutes and look at your marketing. So you just say, hey, we'll just go through it really quick. Is that okay? You want to get that marketing done first. And then we go right into it. So explain to them the different things. So Brian, I'll give you these bullet points here on A, B, and C.
Yeah, I just want to go back to the presentation piece, Willie. Right before you went into the presentation piece, it is important that you ask them what is important to them because you could talk for hours. There's so many different things in your presentation, and you could easily lose people by overloading them with information. So when Willie asks what's important to you, tell me why you're moving, that's designed to help gear your presentation so that you're hitting those things, and you'll echo it when we do the presentation training. We'll show you how we repeat those 3 things or 4 things that are important to them to make sure that we're covering that in our presentation. And Willie, the other thing that we need to mention, probably should update these notes too that we didn't talk about here, is when you're sitting down, I don't care if you're sitting down to a buyer presentation to sign a new buyer, or you're on a listing appointment, sitting down doing a listing presentation, talk about real quick, really, the importance of having decision makers, all decision makers there, because everything you're about to enter and talk into is going to get lost in translation if you leave it to that person to give that information to another decision maker.
Yeah, that's a great point. And you don't have to lose too many appointments to figure this one out, right? And I had a situation where I talked to the wife on the phone and they were interviewing another agent. And I do a lot of business in this neighborhood and sent flyers over the years. So she called me and she goes, yeah, we talked to another agent, want to talk to you because we know you saw a lot of houses in the community. Come on over and meet with my husband and I. I said, okay, great. So I show up at 6 o'clock for the appointment and I walk in the door and come on in, can I take my shoes off? Where can I set my laptop? Great. And all right, where's Steve? And she goes, oh, Steve had to work late. So we're just going to go through it. I told him I meet with you. Okay. So part of me, I was like, okay, I really want both decision makers, but I know I want this listing and I know they're getting a list next week. So I need to get this thing done. So I broke my rule. I said, all right. And she goes, I said, but don't both of you? No, he just lets me do what I want to do. So let's just go ahead and do it and get the presentation done. So went through the house, went through the whole thing, sat down, went through everything with her, gave her pricing, gave her commission splits, gave her everything. Great. She goes, I'm going to talk to Steve and we'll get back to you next week. Okay. A couple days later, next week comes, she said, hey, we're going with the other agent. Okay, great. Anything I could have done different? She says, well, no. She says, everything was pretty much there, but the other agent gave us a better commission split, and my husband's an accountant and wants to go with them, and gave us a higher price.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, okay. So fast forward, the house doesn't sell. Way overpriced it, and the house didn't sell. 6 months later, I end up getting the listing when it expired. And not only did I get the listing, but I also got the purchase on a new property that they bought. So it worked out in my favor, but I lost that listing because I broke the rule. I didn't have both decision makers there. Think about the two things I lost it with: commission and price of the home. Both of them are
Tied to
right. You can't control that, right? But cost, meaning commission, is only an issue in the absence of value. He didn't see the presentation that I did. She did, but he did not. He came home and said, all right, you met with Willie. What was his commission and how much did he say for the home? And she told him, and he goes, okay, let's go with her.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't say anything about all the marketing. She didn't say anything about the relocation. She didn't say any of that stuff, right? So because both decision makers weren't there, I lost. And they listed with someone that overpriced it and gave them, a percent less on commission. And they thought and it probably cost them a lot more based on their time they had to wait. And now they had to pay so much more for the new home. So my point in that is you always want decision makers there. And the question I get, well, Willie, what should you have done?
Right.
What I should have done is I went there when that happened. I could have said, geez, I really like to have both people there. Why don't I do this? Why don't I go through the property, take a look at it, write down notes, right? And we'll talk. And then I'm going to prepare a great cost market analysis for you now that I've seen your property, because how can I tell you what your home is worth if I haven't seen it?
Right.
Let me get all the information, all the data, and then let me come back when you and Steve are available. And I'll make sure that I'll be as flexible as I can to make sure that I'm here for Steve.
Yeah.
That's what I should have done. All right. But I didn't. I went ahead and went through with that listing appointment. So just something to make sure you have
What was the wife's name?
maybe there's 5 decision makers. I don't know, but make sure all the decision makers are there.
What was the wife's name? You remember?
No, Trish probably knows. I don't remember.
Just say it was
Say
Susan.
Tina. I think her name was Tina.
Tina.
Tina Steve.
So what I would say, Tina, now that I've seen the house, I'm going to go back. I'm going to talk up with some agents, do some more detail, get a better cost analysis that I could share with you and Steve. It's important that I have him here too, because I don't want to put the responsibility of sharing all this information with you and have you translate it to him and something get missed. So I think it's best, and we find it's best, that you both hear the information at the same time. That'll help you in your decision making, right?
Right. Yeah.
So it's kind of like you're doing her a favor, and it sounds good. So it's not just that she's doing us a favor, allowing us to come back. Like, help me help you, right? Make this decision. And I think it's best that, I'll give you all the information at the same time. So collectively, all that pressure is not on you alone. He's got the buy-in. He heard the same information that you're hearing.
Yeah, but
So,
sometimes, it sounds great in theory, but she was a high D and like she was the boss.
Yeah.
And she wasn't, obviously, right? But you're right. There's different ways to skin a cat. I just think, you just got to do your best to make sure they're both there. And sometimes it might be 5. I've had situations where an estate went to 5 siblings or, 5 children, and you got one executor that's in California. I remember, come on, we're interviewing agents. You're 14 agents coming in to see this house.
Yeah.
And I went down there. I go, absolutely not. What's your commission and what's your price? That's what you want. I go, no, that's not how I work. I said, but who's the executor? Oh, my brother, right, out in California. Great. Can we jump on a call at 7 o'clock tomorrow night with everyone, and I'll go over everything with you? Okay, I'll ask. Well, sure enough, they took my call, and we ended up getting a listing because I was able to do the presentation and explain to all 5 decision makers, and they go, wow, this is great, Willie, we'll go with you, right? So you just don't know. But anyway, let's go through some of these. We got a rapid fire because we're.
Yeah, so Willie, this is the 14 steps that we're talking about. We're going to dive deeper in the presentation and future calls. We're going to dive deeper into pricing, but sticking with the 14 steps, when you do your presentation, like to your point, do the marketing first. This is a crucial point where you don't want to do it out of order. A lot of agents will get sucked into the price conversation before they do their presentation. And what will happen is you're going to say a number, whether you mean to do it or not, you're going to say a number that the seller's not aligned with. And then everything else that you have to say after that is a blur. Because again, that wall is going to go up. They're going to tune you out They're not going to see the marketing, the value that you're bringing to the table. They're just going to be fixated on your number was a lot lower than their number that they had in mind. So make sure you do the presentation first, show your marketing, show your value. And then number 9, you want to pull out CMA summary, hopefully that you brought that shows a range of homes that you selected. You know, circle on that piece of paper. You should have one piece of paper that shows your active, your pendings, your sold listings, and circle them and talk about and explain the following, what they mean. An active listing, this is to your competition. These are other homes that are currently on the market that you're in competition with. So that's going to help you with pricing, because you don't want to be the most expensive person in that community, in that area of homes. And I always say, when you go to a dealership, do you say, show me the most expensive car on the lot? No. Well, that's effectively what you're doing if you're not paying attention to what other listings that are similar that are active are priced at. And it's also called fantasy land, because your seller's going to say, well, you know, the one a block away, they listed at, you know, $30,000, $40,000 higher than that. Don't worry about that. That's fantasy land. They can list at whatever they want. It's the ones that are going to sell. That's what we're going to talk about. You know, the pendings and the close, those are reality. So as you can see there, right? So we call it fantasy land. Pending listings, these are homes that are currently under contract. They still got to go through appraisals and inspections, but they're a better indication than your active with regards to value. But closed sales, this is what an appraiser is going to look at. This is reality, right? These homes are officially closed, and they're the best way to determine market value. So you want to try to get as many closed comps as possible when you're sitting there having that pricing conversation. But explain it to them, because a lot of times people get fixated in their head what they see or what they heard, really, the other house is sold for, right? Neighbors like to brag and you know, exaggerate the truth with regards, and we found this a lot too. Well, you know, the neighbor across the street got $30,000 more, and then we'll look and we'll see that there was a big seller's concession, or we can look at the MLS and see what it truly closed for. Just because they were listed at a certain price doesn't mean that's what they netted, right? So make sure you're checking the data. And I would say casually, I would show them here, hey, where'd you hear that information? Because it looks like right here, this is what it officially closed at, just to correct them. I don't say, yeah, right, that didn't happen. I don't want to insult them, you know, their information, but I also want to show them that I want to make sure that you're priced accordingly, that you don't sit here and sell because you were sold false information. This is the information that not only am I seeing, but a bank appraiser sees and other realtors see. So we want to make sure that we know what the true sale price is. That's reality and what has closed. So you want to take that from there, Willie?
Yeah, do number 11, Brian, and I'll bring it home.
All right, so you want to select at least 4 to 5 homes which have closed to match seller's current home, and review the features and the benefits of these homes, such as square footage, list the price, days on market, number of baths, etc. Now, I found this is best to do. You got to have an internet connection, have your laptop. Let them look at the photos of those other homes, because what sellers will say, our house, everybody has an emotional attachment to their stuff, right? This is their domain. Our house is better than, our house blows that away. But then when you look and you see, well, this one has an updated kitchen. This one, they just recently finished a basement, or they just recently renovated a bathroom. And that's going to be a price factor. But if you're just going off a piece of paper and you're showing them numbers, they're not going to buy into it as much. And I've done this, Willie, where I put it up on the big screen in the conference room where we pulled up those 4 or 5 homes to compare it to. And when you start going through the photo, I've actually had couples argue, no, it's not worth as much as we thought it was. Look, they got a brand new kitchen. Look, we got to come down a little bit. I know you want to get X, Y, Z. And I just sit there quiet and let them come to a conclusion, right? I'm not going to tell them what I think the number is. They're seeing the data and they're seeing the photos, and hopefully that will help align their thought process to where the market is. Not all the time, right? But it'll help get them, especially if they're up there in fantasy land, like a lot of sellers, right? It knocks them down a little bit, because I always say our job is to come to a meeting in the minds, and that's getting the sellers to come closer down to where the market is, and getting the buyers to come up closer to where the market is, so that we can get a transaction done. But starts with selecting those 4 to 5 homes. Make sure you review it with them, and that they see the full impact of those things that we just talked about: square footage, how long it's been on the market, and some of the features of the home. Are they truly comparable?
All right, now once we do that, right, they're going through it. You can already see they're getting uncomfortable. You're going to hear different things come out of their mouths, right? Like, wow, that one's got a beautiful kitchen. Oh, look at, they did the bathroom, honey, right? All these things are going to come out, right? And that's stuff that they didn't do. To Brian's point, you don't want to show up there with a black and white MLS sheet of a picture of the front of the house. You want the inside photos. So Once you get to that point, once you went through all the pictures and everything else, this is where you take a little pause and you say to the seller, now after looking at these recent home sales, we can see a range of homes similar to your home between 450 and 525, right? That's really the range here. Where do you feel, this is a key question, you want to circle number 12, where do you feel your home should be priced based on these current home sales? And then you notice I just stopped talking. Never, ever, ever, never, ever, ever give them a suggested price first. Okay. This is where agents feel that they know everything. And number 12, they say, you know, based on the comps that I just ran, I think your home is worth 475, right? 525, whatever it may be, right? Just give you examples earlier in the call. Never, ever do that. Put it on to them. I'm giving you the data. I'm giving you the facts. Based on all this information, based on all these inside photos, based on your research, because you just told me what these other homes that you've been looking at in your neighborhood have sold for over the last 6 months, where do you feel your home should be priced? And then I just shut up. And I will tell you, 80% of the time, they will tell you, geez, you know, Willie, when you first came, I thought it'd be over 500,000, but now that I'm looking at it, probably 475, probably in that range.
Right.
Okay, right, based on the information, and if I agree in that, I'll say, yeah, based on this information, I think you're right. Now it's just a matter, because buyers looking $25,000 increments. Now it's just a matter of, okay, 450 to 475, or is it 475 to 500? What range are we going to pick there, right? But you never give them a suggested price first. Now, 20% of the agents or sellers will be, they'll challenge you. Well, I don't know, Willie, you're the expert. That's why we called you. You tell us. You're the professional. What do you feel it's worth? And you never let that startle you. I just say, well, hey, I'm just going to go back to the data, and I explain to them how an appraiser would work. And, you know, if someone's going to buy your home, they're going to love your home. They're going to give you a full price offer. And then they're going to get attorney approval. They're going to get their inspections done. And then an appraiser 6 weeks down the road is going to walk into your home, and their job is to find 3 other comparables in the area, like I just pulled up for you, and tell you, or tell the bank what their value and what they feel their opinion is of their price. And so based on this research information, I think it's going to be within this range. Doesn't matter what that's going to be. So again, we'll go through with them and actually make that consideration with them. But my point is that we never give them the price first. And then if they challenge us on it, just go back to the data and come back and just start eliminating. Well, this one's got a little bigger. This one's got a brand new kitchen and finished basement. You don't. That one sold at 510, so we know it's below 510, right? This one has this and that, but it doesn't have this and that, so it's more than 475. So you got to kind of self-eliminate that way as you're going through that. Now, once you come to an agreed price, based on this conversation, determine what they feel they should receive for their home and what they like to list for, right? So we're going to come to that determination at that point, which is number 13. And then once you come to an agreement, yeah, we think it's worth, you know, 500. Let's keep it under 500. Have 500 when we list it. We were thinking 5.25, but now that you just showed us this, 500 is probably where it need to be. Yeah, I agree. Let's go. And then it's at this point where it's number 14, which is the most important, is that you have to ask for the business. You have to close for the business.
Yeah.
So many agents said, okay, well, hey, give me a call when you're ready and we'll get ready to go, right? Or they tell you, Willie, I'm gonna paint the room, I'm gonna, you know, whatever, do this for the next month, and then we're gonna list the property. Okay, well, hey, if you think we're the right fit, then give us a call, right? Like, no, you don't want to do that. You want to close, even if it's 2, 3, 4 weeks out. Try to close for that listing appointment. So the conversation here is, Mr. Seller, we went over an aggressive marketing plan and what we can do to get your home sold for top dollar. I feel very confident we can get top dollar and sell it with the least amount of hassles. Are you ready to get your home listed? And a lot of times you're like, yeah, let's get going on this, right? Or, hey, we're still interviewing other people. That sometimes you should know it beforehand. And I always try to be the last person in. And then the piece on here that I usually see is that they'll say, well, you know what? We're probably not going to list. We want to paint that room, like you said, and the basement, you said declutter. You know, we're probably, you know, a few weeks out. And I look at the calendar. I said, okay, well, with August 1st, you think you get it? Oh, yeah, definitely by August 1st. Okay, well, why don't we go ahead and start pre-marketing your home? I have a couple things that I could fill out right here, and we could start pre-marketing with my team to get things going. Start writing out the the description of your home and get all the different things ready. So all we have to do is just get photos on August 1st, and we'll be ready to go. Are you okay with that? And 80% of the time, they're going to go with you, and they're happy with you. They're going to say, yeah, let's go ahead and sign it up. But if you leave that appointment and say, you know what, great, let me come back on August 1st. We'll do all the paperwork, we'll get all the pictures, and we'll be back August 1st. Okay, sounds good, high five, you leave. And then what happens? They go to work. Hey, a realtor came over last night and we're gonna sell our home in August. Oh, really? Because my cousin Johnny has a sister Susie that does it part-time that can come over and give you a great deal. Or my neighbor says, well, geez, little Johnny's looking to buy. We'd love to have him live next door to us.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden they're putting deals together, and you're going to get the phone call, which I have. Hey, Willie, you're never going to believe this. The next door neighbor, I was cutting the grass, told them we're going to sell our house, and their cousin wanted to live in a neighborhood, and we're going to do a private deal. Thank you for all the information, and now we know what to sell it to for, right? Because we did all the pricing. So you want to get them locked in onto some type of a contract, because when that agent that's working part-time at the state gets that information and they call that seller, they're going to say to them, did you already sign? And they're going to say, yes, I already signed with Willie and Brian. Okay. They're going to walk away. But if they say, no, we haven't signed anything yet, but you're more than welcome to come over and take a look at it, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to push for that signature and close.
Yeah.
So make sure you guys are getting things signed ahead of time. It's just that signature, it definitely commits them to you. So I know we went over a lot. We're right at the top of the hour. I'm open for any questions that anyone may have. If you want to put in a question on here, feel free to do so. And like Brian said, we are going to go over the actual listing presentation here in a couple of weeks on our next call, where we actually do a deeper dive as to what that listing presentation looks like. Obviously, we don't have time today because these 14 steps are so important to make sure that you follow these steps when going on a listing appointment. Brian, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I'll just finish with what we started with. I was talking about the importance of confidence, and you're in your script right there. It's letting them know, hey, I'm very confident that we can get your home sold fast and for top dollar. So again, exuding that confidence will make them feel a lot better versus, especially at the end there, really, agents get so nervous about the price and talking about commissions that they start to, the ones that don't practice enough, they start to show that they don't have that confidence, right? So make sure you're finishing strong by doing this, following these 14 steps, getting a presentation down that you can feel good about. And, when you get these topics or these questions that sellers are going to throw at you, you're going to know how to handle these objections, right? So you do that with confidence, finish with confidence.
So true, so true. All right, next call is actually going to be on July 30th, which is going to be understanding the CMA and pricing your listings right, which I think is a very important call, Brian, where we're actually going deeper to show you exactly what those 4 or 5 comps are, what they should be, how to get that pricing on it, and making sure that you're going in there with the right information. Sometimes you won't. Sometimes you'll walk into it and be like, wow, I totally, got the wrong information. It looked like an older house, and, I pulled all these other comps, but maybe it's an addition that was on that didn't show up on the CRS or, on the tax data, and you have to come back. But 99% of the time, if you show up with the right information, you're going to be able to win that listing. So we're going to talk about that on July 30th, and then we'll go over the presentation on August 13th. And then we'll have a Live with the Leader podcast on the 27th on there. So, but yeah, so good stuff there. We have a question here from Kim who said, how far back time-wise on comps? Brian, you want to answer that?
Yeah, I look at 3 months in this market. And the other thing you got to be careful with, especially this time of year, really, some of the mistakes I see agents making, make sure you're letting sellers know if they're listing now in the summer, those comps that you're looking at that are recent are from a spring market where demand was much stronger. Sellers tend to get a little bit more when there are multiple offers going on. So I'm not saying not to use those comps, but make sure that you're explaining to them, we might not match that comp. That's a strong comp, that's good, but it was also done in a market where activity was higher, demand was higher. But I try to look back at the first 90 days. If not, I'll go as far as 6 months. Depending on how tight the area is, if I'm looking at a particular neighborhood, I might go back a year just for a preference, but a bank appraiser is going to go back as far as 6 months, I think. So that's a good gauge to do it. But start with 90 days first. See if you can get to those 4 to 5 homes. If you can't, go out a little bit longer and try to get. You might get to a point where, depending on if it's not a cookie cutter home or it's not in a development, you might not get any comps, or you might only get 1 or 2 comps, and then you go to RPR, it's 1 star. That's when you have the conversation that you might need a bank appraisal, a bank appraiser to come in here, use a different method of establishing a value.
Yeah, great point. Great question, Kim, and we're going to go deeper on that next week or in 2 weeks. So July 30th, we'll have the understanding of CMA pricing. We'll tell you exactly how to pull the comps up and what to look for in pricing these properties. So, all right, we went over a little time. Appreciate you guys being flexible with us, and we'll see you in a couple weeks. Thanks, Brian. We'll talk to you soon. Take care, everyone.